Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of 10 Minute Marvel. I'm your host, Petter, and I'm joined again by.
Hey everybody, I'm back. This is Greg.
So, we're going to be talking mainly about Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but before that, we do have one piece of news. And as always, I just want to say, before anything else, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you are enjoying the podcast. If you are, please consider subscribing, sharing it with your friends, or leaving a rating and review. You can find the podcast over on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. So, the one piece of news, and this is still mainly a rumor at this point, but it kind of ties back into, I believe last week we talked about how Marvel and Sony were back at the table to potentially get more Spider-Man. And the rumor, the report, I would call it more of a rumor at this point in time, is that Tom Holland is close to signing back on for 3 more films. Now, what does that mean? Who knows? It might literally be through Secret War. Like if they do one Spider-Man film, he's in Kang Dynasty and he's in Secret Wars. That might be all.
Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, there's way too much out there that he could drop into. I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't have anything else to say on that one.
And then we're on to Black Panther Wakanda Forever. We're going to give a few sentence thoughts on the film here before we dive into spoilers, just in case you haven't seen it yet. For me, this was one of those films where I don't think it really stumbled at all. There was maybe a couple minor things where I was like, that could have been done better. But for the most part, this just hits on basically every mark, and it tells the story that kind of we were talking about last week of that grieving, of that mourning that kind of caps off phase 4. I think this is going to be the last time, well, with the exception of the epilogue to phase 4, Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. I think that this is going to be the last thing that is really focused on that grieving process.
I'm gonna agree with you 100% that there really wasn't a time in this movie that I fell out of the movie. It was from the beginning scene to the very end. I was like entrenched in this, and I think it was well timed. It was like the story just flowed really nicely, and it was visually captivating at every turn. And so lots of heavy heart feelings and even some really great action. So those are my initial thoughts in the no spoiler portion of this, anyways.
Yeah.
Do
So,
we, do we just jump right in after that? Is it like
yeah, I think
no
it's
no holds
spoiler
barred?
time.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
spoilers, spoilers,
Yeah.
spoilers. If you're still
Um,
listening, it's
guess
spoilers.
guess what? We're in spoiler. Yeah, you've been warned.
Yes.
All right, let's kick it off. So I kind of wrote down some like my top top 5 moments, So I we don't really need to go over the synopsis of the movie, right? Let's just
Nah.
go ahead. Okay, I'm trying to pick what's my one to kick off here. I'd say I'm gonna save that for last. Okay, I'll start with so I think the Okoye's battle scene on the bridge was really epic, and the chase scene that led up to it was great, but that battle between her and you're gonna help me with the name again because I never remember names. Like
Nope.
the right hand man of Namor.
I don't remember his name
Oh my
either.
gosh. Okay, hang on a second. This is gonna need to be said. So Atuma, there it is. By the way, I think his character is gonna stick around. You'll see him in the future, the next Black Panther. But that battle scene I thought was amazing, and I just love how they were just toe to toe. And that was one of the more captivating performances, especially by I cannot pronounce her name, but Okoye's character. I think just a great battle scene altogether.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, this is the first time really where we've seen like the Dormelage and really a lot of the Wakandans actually have to fight against somebody who is at the same level as
Yes,
them. Because you're
yes,
basically looking at the battle in Infinity War. They were holding their own until Thanos shows up.
right.
Then he has a partially empowered Infinity Gauntlet. And then a lot of, like, even in the battle in Endgame, I mean, they're holding their own because it's the epic moment of all the heroes coming together and coming back. So that was really fun to see and kind of to have her, the most powerful of the Dormelage, being matched perfectly with that. And they did a good job too of it wasn't like a spinny dancy fight
No.
where everybody was like avoiding hits. It's like both her and Atuma were hitting each other and hitting hard.
Yeah, when she hits that staff, like his staff that's like entrenched in the ground, and like just your head just like reverberated right off it, and she just got like set back, and I don't know, so the moment where the car flips from the water bomb, which is awesome,
Yeah.
to the end of that scene, just the toe-to-toe match, that they had, and I guess I was a little surprised. I didn't know that the Telecom people had that ability to heal like that. I
Hmm.
didn't. I mean, I know that that was kind of like the origin of their powers, that they kind of healed them of the sickness, right? The smallpox, I think, is what it was.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't know it had that much regenerative ability.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the way it is in the comics or not,
Yeah,
but like it worked. It worked really well because again, you needed that enemy that was actually scary to the Wakandans.
and that was kind of one of those scenes that I was like, wow, they are up against somebody that is equal to, if maybe not greater than in power than they are. So it's not about
Yeah.
technology really so much as just sheer brute strength.
I mean, I'll bounce off of that one into another one of my favorite, like the throne room scene with Queen Ramunda and her kicking Okoye out of the Dormelage.
Yeah, you
Like
knocked one of mine out too. Yep.
that speech is just so powerful. Like we hear it in the trailer, but it's always assumed kind of to be in the context of the UN in that trailer. And to have her saying that not to people outside of Wakanda, but to a Wakandan is just so impactful and so emotional.
Like I said, you knocked one of mine out that I was talking about. And when she first started like just leaning in, right, to Okoye, I was like, what is this? Doesn't make any sense. It didn't make a lot of sense to me at first. And then when she continued on with like her rant and just, onslaught of, here's why you're basically getting canned as the leader of the Dora Milaje, this, and this. And I was like, oh, dang, you're right. Like she might, that's the legit reason. And it was like, it was a performance that I hadn't really seen something like that, I don't think, in an MCU film, at least of that caliber, maybe. And it was great. It when I left the theater, I was like, this is like Oscar contending. Like this movie was so well done and so
Mhm.
well acted and so visually captivating. I'm like, how does this not contend?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I put up there at like a best picture level, but there's certainly things like being up there for the the cinematography,
Yeah.
100%. Angela Bassett should get a best actress nomination or supporting actress, depending on what they consider that role as Queen Runda,
Hmm.
because that was like between her and Tina Cuerta as Namor, like those were just two powerhouse performances.
Agreed. Yeah, I was every time Namor was speaking, I was it was where he had me. I was just in the movie at that point, and I don't know. It was really just amazing. Let's see if I can bounce off yours then. I did not see the return of Killmonger coming at all. I didn't read about it. I didn't hear about it. I mean, I thought they might have him in there. I knew that something was going to happen when she went into uh, that kind of, I don't know what.
Ancestral plane.
Thank you. Yeah. And so, because that chair, like I thought it was just slow going around that big chair, right? But when I saw him, I was like, wow, that was a kind of a jaw dropping moment for me. And I thought that was a really cool way of showing what state she is in, right? What
Yeah.
Shuri, right? Like she is on the brink of having to make some tough choices, and like she's angry, she's hurting, and I just loved that conversation that they had.
Yeah, and it was this really good moment where Shuri has to realize that her technology, this thing that she lives and breathes, like it can't save everyone. And when her world crumbles like that and she falls into kind of that despair and rage that we see when Queen Ramonda dies, that like that is the logical direction for her to go. Like
Hmm.
for her to kind of seek out the emotion that is like hers. We've seen from Queen Ramonda, from T'Challa, from T'Chaka, that isn't who they are as people. So who is there without bringing in some random other ancestor who really ties into that? And well, Killmonger, I wasn't necessarily like shocked when I saw him on the throne, but I also didn't expect it. And it was like that was the big reveal from this movie. This will dovetail into another one of mine, which I really appreciated that we got really good character growth in this movie. Like Shuri has always just kind of been the tech character. She hasn't really had to do or change or grow that much. We saw her put in horrible position after horrible position and making decisions that are leading towards a very destructive path. And this end battle between the Wakandans and the Talosians, she eventually has to grow past that. She has to kind of realize the lessons that Queen Ramonda, that T'Challa have been instilling, even if she doesn't really think or hasn't really approached life the exact same way that they have. But even beyond that, I think we get more character development for Queen Ramonda, for M'Baku, for Nakia, for Okoye than we had for any of them in the original Black Panther film.
It it was a lot of development, and do you, do you feel like it was too many character developments happening? Because I mean, Shuri, Okoye, I guess you got a little bit of Nakia, but you got a little bit of stuff from Ross. I don't know. It just there was and obviously Riri Williams character. I guess she had that was her kind of origin.
Yeah,
Not it's not her origin, but it was the kickoff moment, right, for her in the MCU. So it was a lot. It was a lot to follow. I think about how many it was, and it still didn't feel like too much. I could see how some people might feel that way though, and it's just like, well, hone in a little bit.
I do think it was maybe a bit too much for this movie, not in terms of like it wasn't interesting character development, but this is a 2 hour and 41 minute long movie that I think with a little bit of better planning from the original Black Panther and putting some of that character development into a movie that was kind of lacking at times in character development,
Yeah.
that you could have created two better movies. I appreciate whenever I get good character development because that's what interests me the most.
Yeah, I agree. That's so with that and talking about characters, and I'm gonna circle back to Okoye. So there's the Midnight Angels run. So do you think that they're going to, is that official? I don't really know. Is that like officially something they're doing with her and character and probably Io and was that Anika? Is that
Yeah. So there was a and is a Disney Plus Wakanda show that is in the works. Not on the calendar at all yet for phase 5 or phase 6. That's probably going to be more of an Okoye focused show, I would think. Just because I don't think you'd bring in some of the other bigger names, especially now with Shuri taking up the mantle of Black Panther. So I think it's going to be something like that. It's going to be Wakanda focused and probably Okoye focused.
Wait, is it your turn or my turn for the the top? We're back. Pull it back to the top five. Is it mine or yours?
I don't remember.
Okay, last one of there's two. So my last one of two. When Namor says he's a mutant, that was a big one. I thought they finally said it.
They said it. They didn't like do the 97
I know X-Men.
X-Men sting with it.
Yeah, yeah,
So it was, I really appreciated that moment as well to just be like, okay, there are mutants in the MCU. We know that already with Kamala Khan and Miss Marvel because of that line at the end. But to be like, okay, there have been mutants on Earth since 15 something
yeah, like
at
1570 or
least.
so. Yeah,
Yeah, like that's cool.
yeah. It just makes me. I want to see more story from Namor. I want him to be like interwoven. I want him. I want him to be in the Illuminati. Like if they do stuff like that, I want him to be another villain slash good guy. That anti-hero kind of.
Yeah,
I don't know. I want more development of that, and to get a little
yeah.
bit more understanding of his mutant background and how much does he know about mutants. And will they will they use that to tie in? Does he know more mutants kind of thing? And so
Hmm.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I really like too how they ended it with Namor with like this idea of he yields to Shuri at the end, which in some ways is to protect himself and his existence so that he
Yeah,
can continue to protect his people. But he also is doing that knowing that Telocon's power, like their people, if they were to launch a full scale attack against Wakanda, or when people come knocking at Wakanda's door to attack, that he is kind of that backup. It's done in a way where Wakanda is promising to help him, and what Wakanda is going to get out of it is also going to help him.
yeah. The way that ended the battle scene between Shuri and Namor, and I was like, oh, okay, well, she outsmarted him, basically just dehydrated him, and that was cool. And I didn't like how he on that beach scene, he just kind of said, okay, fine. I was like, something was just slightly made me uneasy about that. But then when he is back in Telecon and he is speaking with Namora, and he's like, it's fine because I really have them kind of in the palm of my hand. I have them in a spot where they need me and we do need them, but it's to our advantage that they need us. And
Mm-hmm.
so I thought it was like it shows his wisdom as a warrior, and just how smart Namor really is, and it showed him as a really strong character. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was cool. I thought that was, and it totally redeemed that whole thing on my feelings were at the end of the battle scene between him and Shuri. So
Yeah, so one of, I think, kind of the most, and this really is a scene that I think shows the strength of Namor and the Telecon people when he floods the throne room and Queen Ramonda and Riri Williams are basically knocked out, knocked into the water and are drowning. And then you have Queen Ramonda sacrificing herself, or not really sacrificing herself. I don't think her plan was to die, but knowing that she had to save Riri Williams for Riri to stay alive was just, I think that was a scene that they did well. I think that it was a scene that was impressive of Namor as well, where you really get to see the power that he has backing him to get to the center, the heart of Wakandan royalty and to basically ruin their home.
yeah, I was partially happy that, I mean, I know that he flooded it. He flooded it with, like just it wasn't like a whole bunch of those water bombs.
Yes.
there was a lot of flooding in Wakanda, but it wasn't like the city was. I was expecting before, like in the prior weeks of like just seeing Wakanda just be done, like massive amount of water, and it seemed like it was it was tragic amount. It was very defeating, but it didn't seem like it completely wiped out the entire city where it can't be rebuilt. So I was happy they kind of found that almost even not even ground, but halfway point.
Hmm.
But back to the Queen and Riri, it was something where when Queen Ramonda was swimming up, like in the first part of that scene where you see her struggling to kind of get up, I'm like, she's gonna die. Like she doesn't have enough air. Like you could tell in her own, like her face, and this is how, credit to Angela Bassett for just this acting ability of, I knew that she didn't have enough air and enough power to swim up to save them both. And I was like, oh
Hmm.
crap. And I didn't, I don't know, her death was like, yeah, that sucks. It was kind of like T'Chaka's death. I was like, oh man, that sucks. But I knew that, you had T'Challa and Black Panther, but it was still quite a blow, right? Obviously, and
Hmm.
I think I was just mostly impressed by knowing that she was gonna die before she even got to the top of the water. Like, I don't know, it was cool. So it's funny you said that scene. I thought you were gonna go with the new young T'Challa. I thought that was gonna be the other moment for you, or was that still left on your list?
That one actually didn't make my list.
Interesting. Again, didn't see it coming. I didn't know they were gonna take that direction with it. I thought they were gonna continue down with Shuri, and I'm sure I mean, they do. They have plenty of story to go with, and I'm sure they're going to continue with that. But I did not know that they were going to bring in then, you know, I guess the prince through Nakia. I didn't see it coming. So it was a pleasant surprise for me. And maybe
Mhm.
I'm an idiot. I don't know. So
No, I think for me, I look at that, and this is the end credit scene where Shuri is she has left Wakanda, and it's part of kind of her grieving process. And she has gone to Haiti, where Nakia has set up a school and is working with orphans, or just educating children. And we find out that Kia, at the time of Infinity War, is sent away by T'Challa because she is pregnant with a new young T'Challa.
mhm.
And for me, I think that scene and that kind of whole interaction, I don't think it's really setting up another character. I don't think it's setting up. I think what that scene at least read to me is Shuri is letting go of like her anger, letting go of kind of that piece of grieving. And then she gets this piece back of her nephew, this young T'Challa, and it is part of kind of her healing process. Who knows? Maybe we'll see that kid again, but I mean, the kid is also only 5.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna probably see him. My guess, if at all, until God, I don't know, 2, 3 years from now, and he would show up. I don't know. They would have to age him up.
Hmm.
Yeah. I First of all, I'm gonna go back to the end credit scene, right, where Shuri is sitting by the fire. She's burning her brother's, I guess it was the burial dress, right? Ceremonial garb, whatever you want to call it. And how that ended, it was just silence for a lot of it, and it was just grieving, and it was almost like you could see her just letting go of that rage that she had, and she was finally forgiving herself, maybe finally just moving on a little bit. Not that it's that easy, obviously, but like that's what I was trying to portray. And then when you get the end credit scene where the new young T'Challa, Tucson, when he's, is introduced, it was like it put that hope back into her, that just little seed that she needed, so that you kind of knew that her character was gonna try and move on and do better. Just like that, many of the choices that they made in the movie, with one exception.
All right.
So my my one exception is what is up with Ross and Val? That did not make any sense to me. As my only gripe is why Valentina, yada yada yada, uh, and Agent Ross supposedly were married at one point in time.
And like my one nitpick, besides kind of that one line in there, because that's primarily what it is.
It
It's
is
just one
true.
line. Is I thought that some of the handling of Riri Williams in this film was a bit clunky. Like they were trying to make it cool,
Yeah.
and they were just trying a little bit too hard.
Yeah, it was almost like she should have been in a different, she should have been introduced maybe in a different movie almost. But I get she was a scientist, right? That it almost gets lost in the movie. You kind of forget like that's what Namor and Talokan wanted. Like they wanted they wanted to kill her, and that was it.
It felt like they knew it was a weird spot to introduce her character. They just needed somebody to be a MacGuffin for kind of these different plot points. Before we hop into the last thing, let's just get a little bit of speculation going forward.
Okay.
So we have at the end, Black Panther will return. So Shuri, as the Black Panther, is going to return. And we know that Ironheart is coming as well. So what do we think? Well, I guess with Ironheart, do we think that anything from this film is really going to set up much for her show?
Other than maybe some outsourced tech options from Wakanda. Um, oh, I don't, I don't
I'm
know.
with you. I think
I
that maybe like AO showing up or something like that, or and delivering something from Shuri.
Yeah, a little assistance maybe here or there somewhere in the show from one of the
Mhm.
Dora Milaje or
Something like that. But I think it's going to mainly be a separate show. I think it's going to really truly be her origin story. This was an introduction, and it's the what's coming up is going to be more of an origin. After Ironheart, where do we think Shuri Black Panther is going to show up next? And maybe how or some ideas, but I think at this point in time, it's more where can she potentially show up again? Is it going to wait all the way to Kang Dynasty, or do we think we'll see her before?
it's a long time to wait for King Dynasty. No, okay, I gotta pull up the stupid face. Right, but I'm thinking where else she could show up.
Thunderbolts, because that has Bucky on there.
Do you think that do you think they would show up in Thunderbolts? Do you think that that Thunderbolts will be trying to like infiltrate Wakanda somehow, or do you just think that she'll pop in and
I mean, he does have a vibranium arm.
that she can take off whenever she wants? I don't know. I'm gonna have to say I guess maybe in Ironheart, but otherwise um it doesn't really she just doesn't seem to fit anywhere else. Secret Invasion maybe? Well, no, that's
Yeah, that seems like it'd be fast. Like, I mean, maybe you could have Shuri appear in that to be like a person who maybe figures out a way to detect who is a Skrull, but I don't think we'd see her as Black Panther in that. And so then the final character is Namor. When do we see him show up next? And maybe how? It feels like everybody is in play for Kang Dynasty
yeah.
and Secret Wars. So is there a time before that that would make sense?
I'm just trying to think where he fits. Like I just because I see him as Black Panther. I see him as part of the Illuminati. I see
Hmm.
him. Who's another nemesis though? Like who's I guess what other character is he a nemesis for? Or I guess do they work in cahoots together?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know.
So here's where I think he might land. I think he might land in like an end credit or play a role in something like Captain America New World Order, because the Captain America films have generally they've been Avengers light.
Hmm.
Like almost another Avengers film with a whole bunch of characters in it. And it sounds kind of like New World Order is going that way as well. And potentially that there's going to be the piece with the leader and whatever the leader's plan is, and probably that being a New World Order of some sort. But what if at the end we also get this quote unquote New World Order of an Illuminati in the background?
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. I thought of a little challenge question for you to end the show off tonight. And so you need to tell me. I'm hoping to do this every week with you. If I can think of good questions, they're not going to always be like this nature, but we're going to do a little bit of a battle, like who would win. Okay.
Okay.
So who do you think would win, Okoye versus Daredevil? And sub question. So who wins, but also who do you want to win?
So I lean towards Daredevil just because of his, I mean, he just has that superpower of basically being able to place anything in space with kind of that echolocation or that sensing of vibrations.
Yeah.
And not only like it'd be one thing if he was sensing vibrations and it was telling him like, okay, that person is there, because Okoye can move quickly and be in a different spot, but it's also telling him, helping him track the motion of somebody. I do wonder about the introduction of vibranium to this, though,
Mm-hmm.
because vibranium seems to have some interesting properties in terms of like vibrations and in terms of being able to absorb impacts and stuff like that. So would that be something either that would hide her or would create its own vibrations, which would be confusing to Daredevil? Without knowing the properties of vibranium, I would lean towards Daredevil being able to beat her in a fight. But I mean, it would basically just come down to two people brawling at that point in time.
Yeah. I, I just picture them like just fisticuffs, right? Like I feel like they
Yeah.
both can take some pretty good blows and punches.
Yeah.
So, all right, then who would you want? So is that who you'd want to win, or would you want to see Daredevil, or would you want Okoye?
I think that I would want Koei to win because I think that I want Vibranium to have like that innate power to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that ability, it either is throwing him off because of how it vibrates, or it doesn't. So it is something that he just can't track. And if Vibranium doesn't do anything, I would want Daredevil to win just because imagine Okoye having to talk to the other Dormelage to be like, yeah, a blind guy beat me. That would just
Uh,
be potential comedy gold.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Just all the rolling eyes that they'd give her.
Yep. So again, thank you so much for listening. Let us know in the comments. I post this over on nerdologist.com or on Twitter. Tweet your thoughts at the Scando or with hashtag 10minmarvel. And let us know potentially if you're going to see it, what you thought of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, how they handled the passing of T'Challa, the passing of Chadwick Boseman in it. Did you like how they handled that? And let me know and let us know what your thoughts are on how this can go forward. And then I gave a few ways you could help support the podcast at the beginning, but there's also a Patreon, patreon.com/nerdologists. The funds there go to help improve the quality of this podcast, as well as the Malts and Meeples YouTube channel and nerdologist.com website. And any funds are greatly appreciated. But with that, I'll see you next time.
Take care, all.